Telepathy. Telepathy lets Jedi communicate using only their minds. No talking, no holoprojectors, just pure thought. This ability works best with people who are force sensitive, but a strong Jedi can use it on regular people too. One of the best examples is Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. After their duel on Cloud City, Vader speaks to Luke through the Force as he's escaping. No holo call, no transmission, just straight into his mind. This works because they share a strong Force connection. Jedi also use telepathy to read emotions, detect lies, and even calm people down. Qui-Gon Jinn used this when dealing with Boss Nass in The Phantom Menace, subtly influencing him through the Force. Jedi can also project their emotions to others. In Attack of the Clones, Yoda feels the pain of the Jedi being killed across the galaxy when the Clone Wars begin. That's his telepathic link to the Force, picking up on their suffering. This ability isn't just limited to Jedi, though. Darth Vader and Kylo Ren both use telepathy aggressively to rip thoughts straight out of people's minds. Rey does the same to Kylo in The Force Awakens, turning his mind-reading ability back on him. Stronger telepaths can even communicate across the galaxy, like when Leia senses Luke in The Last Jedi. But telepathy isn't just about words, it's about understanding. Jedi can use it to connect deeply with others, forming bonds that last beyond death. That's why Luke could hear Obi-Wan's voice guiding him even after he became one with the Force. Teutamanes is the ability to absorb and redirect energy attacks using the Force. This is why some Jedi and Sith can block blaster bolts or even catch a lightsaber blade with their bare hands. One of the most famous examples is Yoda in Attack of the Clones. When Count Dooku hurls Force lightning at him, Yoda doesn't dodge, he catches it, absorbs the energy, and then flings it away like it's nothing. That's Teutamanes in action. Qui-Gon Jinn also used this ability when he placed his hand on Anakin's mother's shoulder in The Phantom Menace. He was absorbing some of her pain and fear, calming her through the Force. But the best example? Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. When Han Solo shoots at him in Cloud City, Vader catches the blaster bolts with his hand like it's no big deal. Now, this was partly because of his armor, but also because he was using Teutamanes to absorb the energy. The stronger a Jedi is, the more energy they can absorb. Some Jedi Masters could even redirect that energy back at their enemies. This is how Mace Windu survived Palpatine's Force lightning for so long. He was using Teutamanes to channel and push the energy away. However, this ability isn't unlimited. If the energy is too strong, it can still overwhelm the user. That's why most Jedi deflect blaster bolts instead of absorbing them. It's just safer. Force deflection. Force deflection is like Teutamanes, but instead of absorbing energy, the Jedi redirects it without using a lightsaber. This allows them to block blaster bolts, Force lightning, and even physical attacks with just their hands or the Force itself. One of the best examples is Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. When Palpatine blasts her with Force lightning, she doesn't just block it, she redirects it back at him using the Force. Mace Windu also used a form of this in Revenge of the Sith. Instead of just absorbing Palpatine's lightning, he redirected it back at him, which is why Palpatine's face got so scarred. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi was skilled in Force deflection. In the Clone Wars, there are moments where he blocks blaster fire with his bare hands, channeling the Force to push the energy away. But this ability isn't just limited to energy attacks. Some Jedi can deflect physical attacks too, like Darth Vader blocking blaster bolts and stopping lightsabers with his hands in Kenobi and Rogue One. However, not all Jedi can master this. It takes incredible control over the Force, and most prefer to use a lightsaber instead. But for those who can do it, it makes them nearly untouchable. Force Barrier. Force Barrier allows Jedi to create an invisible shield around themselves or others, blocking attacks and environmental hazards. One of the strongest examples is Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels. In his final moments, he holds back an entire explosion with a Force barrier, saving his friends before sacrificing himself. Jedi often use this ability in battle to protect themselves from blaster fire, explosions, or even Force attacks. Luke Skywalker used a Force barrier in The Mandalorian Season 2 in Grogu's vision sequence to block incoming attacks. Some Jedi can extend this barrier to protect entire groups. In the Clone Wars, Jedi like Luminara Unduli and Barriss Offee used it to shield clones from enemy fire. Force barriers also work against Force lightning. Yoda used a version of this in Revenge of the Sith when he blocked Palpatine's attacks. But there's a limit. If an attack is too strong, a force barrier will eventually break. That's why Jedi don't rely on it all the time. It takes a lot of energy, and in a prolonged fight, it's better to dodge or deflect. Force Sense. Force Sense lets a Jedi feel everything around them, even without using their eyes. It's like having a sixth sense that picks up on danger, emotions, and even life forms. Jedi use this all the time. It's why they can block blaster bolts without looking and react before an attack happens. One of the strongest examples of Force Sense is Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope. Right before the Death Star destroys Alderaan, Obi-Wan suddenly clutches his chest and says, "I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced." That's Force Sense at work. He's feeling the deaths of millions across the galaxy. This ability also lets Jedi detect lies, sense the dark side, and even communicate with Force ghosts. Qui-Gon Jinn was one of the first to truly understand this, learning how to manifest after death and teaching Yoda and Obi-Wan. Luke Skywalker also used Force Sense in The Empire Strikes Back when he realized Han and Leia were in danger on Cloud City. He didn't see it, he felt it. Every Jedi learns Force Sense early on because it's one of the most useful abilities. Some are stronger with it than others. Anakin Skywalker's instincts in pod racing and combat were thanks to his heightened Force Sense, making him react faster than anyone else. Precognition. Precognition is the reason Jedi can react before something happens. It's like getting a glimpse into the future, but not in a full, clear vision, more like an instinct or a warning. This is why Jedi seem impossible to hit in combat. They're already predicting their enemy's next move. A famous example is when Luke Skywalker is training with the remote on the Millennium Falcon in A New Hope. Obi-Wan tells him to stretch out with your feelings, and when Luke stops relying on his eyes and just feels, he deflects every shot. That's precognition at work. Some Jedi have much stronger precognition than others. Yoda was one of the best at this. He constantly meditated on future events. Unfortunately, the dark side can cloud this ability. That's why Jedi like Yoda and Mace Windu didn't see Order 66 coming. Palpatine was so strong in the dark side that he blurred their vision of the future. Anakin Skywalker had extremely powerful precognition, which is why he was such an incredible pilot and fighter. His reflexes weren't just skill. He could literally see where danger was coming from before it happened. But precognition isn't perfect. Jedi see possible futures, not set in stone events. That's why Anakin misinterpreted his visions of Padme's death. His fear of the future ended up making it come true. Force empathy. Force empathy is like telepathy, but instead of reading thoughts, it picks up on emotions. A Jedi with strong Force empathy can feel what others are feeling, even if they're hiding it. This is why Jedi can sense fear, anger, or deception so easily. Ahsoka Tano uses this ability a lot in the Clone Wars. She can tell when someone is afraid or lying, even when they try to hide it. In The Mandalorian, she immediately senses Grogu's emotions without him speaking. That's Force empathy in action. One of the strongest examples is Anakin Skywalker. His Force empathy was so strong that he could feel when people were in pain, like when his mother, Shmi, was dying. But this ability was also a curse for him. He felt Padme's fear, felt the Jedi Council's distrust, and it pushed him further into paranoia. This ability is a big reason why Jedi avoid attachments. Feeling other people's pain all the time can be overwhelming. That's why they train to stay calm and separate themselves from emotions so they don't get consumed by them. Battle precognition. Battle precognition is the reason Jedi are nearly impossible to hit in a fight. It's a mix of precognition and heightened reflexes, letting them predict an opponent's next move before they make it. Mace Windu was a master of this. His fighting style, Vapad, was all about reading his opponent's attacks and countering them instantly. That's why he was able to go toe-to-toe with Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. This ability is also why Jedi can deflect blaster bolts so easily. It's not just about reflexes, it's about knowing where the shots are going before they fire. In A New Hope, Obi-Wan trains Luke with the remote, teaching him to rely on the Force instead of his eyes. That's basic battle precognition training. Even non-Jedi can have this ability if they're Force-sensitive enough. Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One wasn't a Jedi, but his strong connection to the Force let him sense attacks before they happened. That's why he could fight stormtroopers while being completely blind. Force bond. A force bond is a deep connection between two force-sensitive beings. It allows them to share thoughts, emotions, and even power across any distance. One of the strongest force bonds in Star Wars is between Rey and Kylo Ren. In The Last Jedi, they communicate across the galaxy as if they're in the same room. This wasn't just telepathy. Snoke claimed he was the one linking them, but their connection remained even after his death, proving it was something deeper. A classic example is between Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. Even after years apart, Ahsoka feels Anakin's presence the moment she sees Darth Vader in Rebels. That's the force bond they formed as Master and Padawan. Luke and Leia also have a strong force bond, which is why Leia could sense Luke's pain in The Empire Strikes Back, and why Luke could feel her presence on Endor in Return of the Jedi. A force bond can be incredibly powerful, but it also comes with risks. If one person in the bond is in pain, the other can feel it too. If one dies, the other might sense their death instantly. That's why force bonds are rare and often only happen between people with a strong connection, like Master and Padawan, siblings, or sworn enemies.